So hello there, and my name is Dr. Philip Zarillo, and I'm going to continue on talking about some of our marketing topics. Now, the next topic that we're going to talk about is the issue of pricing. Now, pricing is a very, very important part of any organization's plans. Okay, pricing is an important element of the marketing mix, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it in relation today to some of the other elements of the pricing mix. Now, our overview is, first of all, I'm going to talk about pricing and talk about pricing in general. Then I'm going to talk about pricing models, and lastly, I'm going to talk to you about several different ways in which you can adapt your prices. Now, when we start to talk about marketing, and we talk about the 4 Ps of marketing, or those tactics of the 4 Ps, and we think about promotion, we think about place or the distribution channel, and we think about the product or the service that we offer. So those first 3 Ps, product, promotion, and place, are all ways in which we do what? We try to enhance the value of our products. This is all about delivering value to the marketplace. The better the product is, the closer we get it to the individual, the more services and information that are there with it, the more we can tell the people in our promotion to inform them, to educate them, to see the value in the product. All of this is about doing what? Creating value. On the other hand, price is the only element we have to collect value or to harvest that value, right? So this is the mechanism that helps us to capture the value from our goods and services, where they're placed, and the amount of promotion that we've done behind them. So if I'm looking at pricing, pricing is a little bit of a different part of marketing, right? It is the collection tool, the harvest tool. Okay, now I'm going to talk throughout about the difference between price level and price policy or price structure. Okay, now what is the price level? Well, price level is what economists like to talk about. Right? Does something cost 10 rupees, 8 rupees, 12 rupees, $1, $2, 50 cents? That's all price level. Okay? Does the price go up or does the price go down? We talk about how much does it cost. We're usually talking about price level. To me, price level is important, but what's really important is the structure. How you price and how you choose to extract money from the marketplace. Do I charge you a fee for a transaction? Do I charge you for a monthly service and we just show up and you use products on demand? Do I put it on a lease arrangement where you're buying it, but you're going to buy it on financing terms? Okay, there's a lot of different what I call price structures or price policies which allow me to collect the same amount of money or sometimes more or sometimes less, but in a different way. Now look, price structure will change a market more than price level. Okay, what do I mean by this? All we have to do is look at something like healthcare. Now, if I think about how the healthcare model worked around the world, in the fee-for-service world of health insurance, okay, once upon a time in America, companies like a Ford or a General Motors or even a Chrysler back in the day, when it was an American company, these companies would offer health insurance to their employees. Now, what the employees would do very often is they would go out, they would see their doctor, and then what the doctor would do is charge them for whatever services were rendered. So if they did an exam, if they ordered some tests, and then what would happen is Ford or Chrysler or General Motors or AT&T, whoever the company is, would then pay that doctor's fee or for the tests or the laboratory tests that needed to be undertaken. And this was the way that the healthcare model worked. Now, generally, these companies didn't want to be in the process of running their own insurance company, so they would hire a Mutual of New York or a Prudential or somebody like this who would handle the benefits and the paying of the benefits and the moving of all of the paper and transactions, but they were self-indemnified. That meant they took on the risk of whatever the cost was for healthcare for their population of employees. So this is the way that healthcare worked for a very long time. Now, what happened? In that kind of a model, where is the emphasis? Okay, so think about it for a second. If you're a doctor, what would you like to see if you're working in that kind of a model? You'd like to see what? You would like to see the patient consume more medical services because you're getting paid every time that they come in the door. Every time that you run a test, you're getting paid on it. So there's a tendency to do in fee-for-service medication or medicine to have what? To have an emphasis on demand. That's driving demand. Now, what happened? After 20 or 30 years of this kind of a model, what the insurance companies or what the auto companies started to see, the Chryslers, the GMs, the Fords, the AT&Ts, the IBMs, is all of a sudden they started to see what? That their healthcare costs were starting to spike. And they were going up at something like 17% per year. Now, I remember back, years and years and years ago, about 1995, 1996, that one day General Motors published in the Wall Street Journal that the cost of health insurance on a new automobile was running them about $950. $950 in healthcare costs for every auto that they made. Now, look, at that kind of a price or that kind of a cost, right, the price of automobiles was having to go up. And General Motors, look, General Motors, when they compete with Ford or if they were competing against Chrysler, well, there was no competitive advantage there because they were all American firms. They were all facing the same cost structure. So they really never managed this. But by now, they're starting to see German competitors, Japanese competitors, Korean competitors. And as these competitors came on the landscape, they had very different costs of medicine. Medicine was going up at such a high rate in the United States that all of a sudden, this was a cost that needed to be managed. Now look, if we look back at the crisis for the auto companies, or one of the very first crises that the auto companies faced, okay, back in the 1990s, people used to say, oh, look at the American auto companies. They were so foolish. They started making big automobiles, and then when oil prices went up, they couldn't sell cars because the Japanese, the Germans, they were making these fuel-efficient, smaller cars. Okay, let's dispense with the nonsense. Those people were not stupid in those auto companies in Detroit, but they had labor unions, labor contracts. They were legally bound to provide this labor, and this was a large social experiment, largely at the urging of the US government, that they had to give these medical costs. So all of a sudden, they're starting to see their prices go up. They're paying $950 just for medical insurance on an automobile. They can't make small cars. You can't sell $6,000 and $7,000 cars like Hyundai was selling or like Toyota was selling at the time when your healthcare cost is $950 on every automobile and it's going up 17% per year. So they tended towards bigger cars. Bigger cars meant more expensive cars, meant there was more margin there, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but now let's get back to our story and let's get back to price structure. So this was the American medical model, if you would, or the healthcare industry structure once upon a time. Now, what happened? All of a sudden we had these health benefit organizations or HMOs, the health maintenance organizations, and they started going to the Chryslers and the Fords and they would say, hey, your healthcare cost last year was $950 per employee. Let's say you have 325,000 employees. So just quick math, your healthcare cost was about $3 billion last year. How about if what we do for you this year is we'll give you your healthcare costs at the same price, okay? But you got to give us 85% of your people. Now, does General Motors or Ford or somebody like this, do they want a steady healthcare cost? Sure. Do they want a known healthcare cost? Absolutely. As that thing is spiking by 17% per year, they never know what it's going to cost at the beginning of the year versus the end of the year. And now all of a sudden you have a health maintenance organization that comes to you and says, I will provide you your medical services for all of your employees on a per capita, per head basis. Now, what they were saying is look, we will guarantee you $950 per person. Now, Then what happened? Now the health maintenance organizations, they have to be able to deliver that healthcare service, because if they don't, the employees are going to be upset, the workforce is not going to show up, and they're not going to build any automobiles. So what happened? All of a sudden, the health maintenance organizations go out and they talk to the doctor, and they go to the general practitioner, because when you get sick, you get a cough, you get a cold, you have some symptom of a loss of vision or some abdominal pain or whatever it is, you're going to go see your general practitioner first. So what they did is they went to the general practitioners and they said, hey, when you see a patient, how much do you charge them? Or how often do you see your typical patient? Well, doctors started coming back and saying, well, I see my typical patient about once every 18 months. Okay. And when you see them, how much do you charge? $156 on average. All right. Now what they would do is they would say, okay, $156 every 18 months. Tell you what, would you be interested in seeing a patient? And what we will do is for every patient that signs up under you and you agree to be their doctor and provide them doctoral services, we will pay you $6 every month. Whether you see them or not, you'll get $6. And then when you see them, you can charge them a $30 copay. Now, if I'm a doctor, I look at that and I say, okay, let's see. Once every 18 months, I see a patient. So 18 times $6 is $108. And then I'm going to have a $30 copay where the person has to pay $30 while they're there. Okay, that's $138. Now, I was getting $156 before. Would I want to transition over to this kind of a model? Now, you used to make $156 when you would see your patient once every 18 months. Now what you're getting is you're getting $138. Now, it sounds like a little bit less, but what do you get in return? You get certainty. And if I'm running my office, I don't have to wait for flu season. I don't have to wait for people to slip and fall in the rainy season. I don't have to wait for, right? Now what I've got is I've got a known amount of money, $6 per patient coming in each and every month. I can pay my staffing and my bills, and I don't have to go to the bank during the seasons when everybody's healthy or everybody's traveling and out of town. So doctors said, yeah, sure, I'll convert over to that. And they began to run their practices a little bit differently. Okay, now what happens then? When your cost is, when your price is capitated and you're going to get so much per head, what is the emphasis of your model? The emphasis is on what? It's on cost containment. Okay, so we're not now trying to get people to consume more services. What we're trying to do is maintain health. We're trying to bring down their cost of servicing. We're trying to reduce the number of tests, the incidences of them being sick, the number of doctor's visits. We're trying to keep all of that down because now it's about cost containment. There is no more revenue. Okay, so we don't try to stimulate demand. What we're trying to do is manage cost. Wow, this changed the whole healthcare business in a country like the United States. Now look, that same model has moved into all kinds of other industries. I mean, if you break your windshield in your automobile, it's the same thing. What they do is they work with the glass replacement companies and they say, hey, look, if you're one of our replacers, what we will do is we will give you $250 on this class of automobiles. But we pay you so much every month to be in our network. And that's it. You'll make money on some of them you're going to lose money on, but this is the price of doing business. Again, containing the cost. Now look, in the healthcare business, what did they do? Just to take it one point further. Suppose you needed also to have x-rays. So people fall down and they hurt their arm or they break their leg or something like that. Well, then they will go over to the x-ray radiologists and they say, okay, how often do you take an x-ray of somebody? Once every 5 years. Okay, 5 years times 12 months, that's 60 months. And when you see them, how much do you charge them? They said, oh, we charge them $550. So they say, okay, $550 once every 60 months. Okay, so tell you what we'll do is we will give you $8 a month. That's $480. You can charge them $30 when you see them. Okay, so you say $480 plus $30 for the visit. Okay, that's $510 versus $560. Again, I get consistent cash flow. I can manage my business. And again, the emphasis for the doctor is on doing what? Containing their costs. Okay, so this is why I talk about price level versus price structure. To an economist, price level, is it $1? Is it 90 cents? Is it $1.10? Is it 5 rupees? Is it 8 rupees? All of that stuff is very important to economists, and they like to write nice models about what happens when prices go up or down. On the other hand, we're talking about price structure. And when we're talking about price structure, we're talking about strategic pricing. Now, what is strategic pricing? Strategic pricing occurs when there's what? When there's a solid interface between your finance team and your marketing team. It's very hard for you to be able to price and price strategically in the marketplace if you don't understand your cost. If you don't know your costs are unknown, it's very hard for you to strategically price. You don't know whether you're trying to enter the marketplace and you're doing it at a low margin because you don't even know your cost structure. Well, similarly, if your finance team doesn't understand the market and is not taking marketing information, they may be telling you to sell products that have a lot of margin in them, but the marketplace doesn't want them. One of the biggest mistakes I see in companies that go off the rails, companies that miss the marketplace, companies that need to be turned around, is invariably when the finance department starts setting all of the prices. Now, finance is very, very good, okay, at understanding your costs and where you'll make money. Unfortunately, they don't understand the marketplace. And this is where the interface between marketing and finance has to come together. If these two groups are not talking to each other, they're not coming together, then one is always asking you to price in a way that's out of response or out of whack with what the marketplace really is willing to buy. So this is where there has to be an interface between these two different groups. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the 8 steps to the pricing process. Now, this has been around. This is not something new. But if conceptually I'm thinking about how do I set a price, usually I'm going to go through 7 or 8 steps as I think about a price. Now, I'm going to tell you a few stories as we go through these, and I'll tell you about how some people have done things very well, some places where people have made some mistakes, but there's generally 6, 7, 8 steps that one goes through. Now, this 8 steps comes right out of Philip Kotler's textbook. And what I'll do is I'll go through these 8 steps. So let's start with the first one. The first one is we have to understand what's our pricing objective. What is it we're trying to do? Now, look, what do we want to accomplish with our price? Sometimes it's about what? It's about survival. Okay, what we want to be able to do is just survive. Now, who has to price in a manner to just survive? Well, a lot of times startups. Okay, they're just trying to get through to the next round of funding. Startups want to be able to show people that what they're selling has a market, that people are showing up for it. So what they do is they begin to price with the idea of just trying to survive until the next round of funding or until their idea takes off or things of this nature. Sometimes survival is also for cyclical companies. Okay, if you run a restaurant in a resort town and it's out of season, well, you want your employees to stay there. You want to be able to keep your key employees. Maybe it's the restaurant, you need your chef and you need some of your top staff. You don't want them all leaving. So what you do is you price in the off months with the idea of what? Being able to cover the costs of those key employees. You reduce your staff, but you cover the employee expenses of your key employees. You're trying to survive until the tourism season comes or until the peak season comes, then you'll be raising your prices. So a lot of times we price just with the idea of trying to survive, to be able to stay in the marketplace till another day. Okay, sometimes what we're trying to do is maximize our current profits, make as much money as we possibly can today. Now, a lot of times when you listen to financiers and finance people talk, you'd think this is the only strategy they ever have. It's just let's make as much profit as we can today. But a lot of times we don't really want to do that, okay? yeah, we want to make a lot of profit, but we'd also sometimes like to maximize sales growth rather than profitability. When do you want to maximize your sales growth, but not your profitability? When do I want to sell more and sell a lot and have a big top line, but not be as profitable? Okay, now there's a couple of times when that might be a very good strategy. Okay, the first and probably the most common is when you have a second product that goes along with the first product, what we call complementary products. Okay, now if you have a complementary product where, let's say, somebody like Hewlett-Packard sells printers, okay, they try to sell the printers basically at cost. They want to make the printer very cheap so that more people have their printers. Why? Because the complementary product is those cartridges, and that's where they make their money. There's huge margins in those cartridges, so what they want to do is make sure that more of those printers get out there. You know, if I think about something like a razor blade and a handle, right? The handles are free, okay, or very, very low cost, but the blades are where they make the money, okay? The blades are $2 or $3 per blade, but the handle, they'll basically give you the handle if you'll use the razor blades, right? So sometimes what we're doing is we're looking to maximize our sales, but not really our current profits. You know, another time when you might do that is when you're facing potential competitors. You know, sometimes what you do is you say, look, I need to get the big customer base. I realize that I'm in a network situation, and the bigger my network is, the more useful, the more value my product provides. Okay, so when people are buying into a network and there's a lot of people on the network, they see more value in the network. So you might keep your prices down so that you can penetrate greater and get more of a network. Similar to that, sometimes you keep your prices down to make the market a little bit ugly, to make it a marketplace that the competitor doesn't want to enter, because they look at your market and they say, you know, there's not a lot of profit in that market. Those guys are in that market, they're working at a low price, there's low margins there, let's avoid that market. So sometimes firms do this as a defensive technique. All right, so why do we want to maximize sales growth? Okay, usually it's because we either have a complementary product, secondly, we're trying to keep the competitors out, or third, by having a bigger network, we tend to have more value. Okay, now the next one, or the next type of objective that I might have, is that what I want to do is I want to skim the market. Okay, now what is market skimming and how does it work? Now look, market skimming says that what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at a very high price, and I'm going to price and reach all the people that want to pay that high price. Once everybody has bought at the high price, I'll lower price. And there's another group of people that would be willing to buy what I have for sale, but they want to pay a lower price. And then what I'll do is I'll lower my price again and lower my price again. Now look, this is a hard thing to do nowadays. It used to be that we would think about doing this with a technology product. And when the VCRs first came out, there were a lot of pricing models where they talked about keep the price high and then lower the price over time and look for more rapid diffusion. But that was a day and age where new products carried the day. There was often a 6-month, 1-year lag until the competitor could get in the market. Today, whatever you're doing, the competitor seems to be able to duplicate your product in a very short period of time. So very few firms are able to do this, where they actually go out and skim the marketplace. Now, one company that tried to do this, okay, was Apple. Okay, Apple came to the marketplace, and when they came with the iPhone, they introduced the iPhone at what, $850. But what happened? Over the next 3.5 months, the price went all the way down to $450. Okay, so they reduced the price by about 45%. All of a sudden, that price just comes down. Now, this is market skimming. Okay, there was a group of people that wanted that product and was willing to pay anything for it. Okay, when they went out and Apple went out they created a buzz, right? They had a buzz in the marketplace. Everybody was so excited about this product. People showed up, they stood in line. They showed up with their Luke Skywalker jerseys on and their lightsabers, and they waited in line for a day to be the first people to get the new iPhone. Okay. Now, how do those people feel 3 or 4 months later when all of a sudden the price is nearly half of what they paid for it? Well, not so good, right? So price skimming had a very negative effect for who? The early adopters. Now, are the early adopters important people? You bet they're important. And they're really important to a company like Apple, because when Apple comes out, who do they need? They need those early adapters to say, wow, that product's cool. I like that product. They wanted those people to do what? To stand up and recommend it to their friends, because they're the technologists in their peer groups. They're the people that help to recommend and make sales for an Apple. Those are the people that they need. And if all of a sudden Apple comes up with a new product and everybody says, you know what, it'll be half the price a couple months from now, I'm just going to wait. Well, then Apple's buzz and all of that market demand begins to fall off. So Apple realized they had made a mistake, okay? They had made a mistake. Okay, now what did they do? Now what they did was kind of ingenious, okay? What they did is they turned around, and what they did is they went to the Apple buyer and those early buyers, because they had their phone numbers. They had already logged in, filled out their warranty cards and their customer service agreements. So they called those people up and they said, hey, Apple buyer, okay, how do you like the product? Great, great, great. Say, you know what? We're really sorry that we have brought the prices down. We didn't expect to bring them down as quickly as we did, but we've been able to, get our demand up, and we've been able to smooth out our production. And so, we brought our prices down, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that you're still a loyal customer. And what we're going to do is we're not going to give you not 100, not 200, not 300, not your whole 400. We're going to give you $500 of Apple product for your phone. Now, why did they give them Apple product? Because it didn't cost as much, right? There's a margin on that stuff. Also, if they're using Apple product and they load their phone with $500 worth of Apple product, what happens? The person becomes loyal on the Apple technology. Wow, great idea. Then what did they do? They turned around and they said, and you know what? We really appreciate you being one of our customers. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to ask you to be on our Apple Technology Advisory team. And if you tell us what size t-shirt you give and you sign yes on this electronic form, what we will do is we will send you a t-shirt, and what we'll do is we'll send some prototypes to you from time to time, and we'd just like to get your insights whether or not you'd like these features on future phones. Well, you might as well have given those technologists a big shirt that said geek across the chest. All of a sudden, what are you saying? You're saying, great, okay, you're going to be a technology advisor to Apple. These people put those shirts on proudly, and they went out there. Now, what did Apple have? They had the market that's the most important to them. They were able to get their insights into what they wanted on the phones and didn't. And they were also able to educate the marketplace before the new phones came out. What a master stroke this was from a marketing standpoint. Now, was it a pricing mistake? I kind of think so. Was it a great recovery? Absolutely. Now, one last point, okay? Other pricing objective is sometimes you price in a manner that you want to signal your quality to the marketplace. So by pricing high, telling the marketplace that you're the best, okay, you signal your quality to the market.